Okay, I think we're going to get started. Welcome. We're so delighted to see everybody here. My name is Kathleen Morgan. I'm a Deputy Director here at Lawrence Public Library. And this series is called Before You Check Out. And we started it, about 5 or 6 years ago with Margie Coggins, who's sitting in the audience. And Cathy and I, and now Jack, have brought back an encore version of it. We cover various topics dealing with end-of-life issues so that you can give this wonderful gift to your family of letting them know what your wishes are and letting them know about, and today in particular, the important parts of your life. So I am delighted to introduce our speaker, Cathy Hamilton. She is a true pro in this area. She is a longtime reporter with the Journal World, not to mention Channel 6 News here in Lawrence, has taught this class before, so you're in for a real treat. We're really excited to have Cathy back to do this. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Cathy, and we'll get going.
Do you want to talk about YouTube?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. One thing I wanted to mention, this session is being recorded, actually the last, three. It will be on the library's YouTube channel in the retroactive playlist. And the way you get there, in my world, this is the easiest way to get there. If you go to the front page of the website, of the library's website, go all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see all the little logos of the various social media sites. And YouTube is down there. It's the red one with kind of like the arrow thing in it. Click on that, and that will take you to the library's YouTube page. And then there's kind of a line of buttons across the middle, and click on playlists, and then look for retroactive, and you'll find it. So all of them are there. That's, to me, the easiest way to do it rather than searching through YouTube. If you have any problems, don't hesitate to reach out to me or Jack. We're happy to send you the link directly. But it should be, we will send everybody in this room a link to the recording as well as any other resources that come along with this. So thank you for that reminder. All right.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you all for coming. What a great crowd. And we got a nice morning weather-wise for it, so let's hope that holds up for the rest of the day at least. I did teach this class about 5 years ago. I think we had maybe 15 people show up. We were down in a meeting room downstairs, and this presentation will have some similar. Did anybody go to that, by the way, 5 years ago? Okay. Well, this you'll see some. Well, if you can remember that long, you will see some familiar slides, and there will be. But it's been updated with some new ideas for you. The whole idea, of course, is to be the one to tell your story. This class, I think, was promoted in some marketing materials under the title, Who Will Tell Your Story? And that, in fact, was the title we gave it. But we're assuming it will be you. I mean, that is the point of this class. You are the best person, and that can be in conjunction with other people, family members, and there are many, many ways to do this. So we are going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to just kind of dip our toe in each of the methods, and then it's up to you to explore which way appeals to you, which way or ways appeal to you, and to use some of the resources that we offer you today, or not. But let's begin. Okay, so here are our options. The obituary, of course, is the most well-known way to tell your story, albeit in a condensed Reader's Digest kind of format. There's also a thing called the legacy letter or the ethical will, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about memoir and autobiography, the differences between them. We'll talk about life interviews, and that is exactly how it sounds. Having someone interview you about the things that have gone on in your life. Social media is a great way if you are inclined and savvy enough to to store stories and memories for people to share before and after you're gone, frankly. It's a good plan B for someone who's not ambitious enough to sit down and tackle like an autobiography, because let's face it, that's pretty daunting. Scrapbook and cataloging photos, and then oral life stories. So that's what we're going to cover today. The point is, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and maybe one or two of these will appeal to you. And skin a cat, horrible expression when you think about it. I'm just sorry I said that. Okay, so what are the reasons we don't tell our story? What are the reasons we haven't told our story since the last class 5 years ago? And I am as guilty as the next guy. I do not necessarily practice what I'm about to preach, although I have taken many steps in the last few years to get to the point where I can put it all together. So, but I was talking to my mother, my 90-year-old mother, yesterday. I took her to lunch in Kansas City, and she was giving me some of these reasons. Like, I said, Mom, have you ever thought, who really? I don't, she was too modest, in other words. She thought it was pretentious or presumptuous to think that anybody would be interested. And I'm looking at her and said, yeah, but I'm interested, or I'm not accomplished enough. I mean, you hear that a lot from people. Well, I don't have a long list of accolades and professional titles or even, volunteer leadership. I'm just not important enough is what they're saying. There's plenty of time. I've got all kinds of time. Well, I'm here to tell you, you never know how much time you have. So don't assume, just get to it, and just like I will tomorrow. No, really, think about it, because it's important. And for crying out loud, don't let modesty stop you. That's just silly. Okay, so the reasons to put the time and effort into writing your story are many, and here are just a few. I think it's important to reflect on your accomplishments, of course, and your experiences, good and bad. Back to my mother, who is 90, she, as far as we kids knew, led the happiest-go-lucky life we could imagine. It was a wonderful life, wonderful childhood. Well, it turns out she had a really difficult childhood. Her parents were married and divorced twice from each other. She was raised partly by a single mom in New York City during the war. I mean, there were all these stories that we never knew until much, much later in her life. And it's because we asked. So I think it's important to reflect not on just on the good stuff, the stuff that goes into the obituary, more often than not, but also the stuff that challenged you and that was hard and difficult and the things you overcame. Your family and your community will thank you. Your kids may not be interested in your antiques. They might want nothing to do with the divan in your sitting room or your antique roll-top desk. Mine don't, but they are interested and will appreciate your stories. Maybe not now, because they're a little busy, but they will appreciate them, as will your neighbors, your nephews and nieces, and former colleagues. They will thank you for that. And you might just inspire somebody. Those hardships I talked about might just inspire someone going through the same situation. And because you came through it to tell the story, and so will they, okay? And again, it's your story to tell. Nobody else has your perspective, right? I mean, I could tell the same stories to my son, who might turn around and tell them to somebody else. It's like the gossip game, where you're whispering. And that story, by this 10th telling, is twisted so that, maybe I was really the innocent bystander, and now I'm the bad guy or something. So it's your story to tell. And the other fear I think people have is they think they've got to be a writer. Well, you don't have to be a writer. You just put the words on the page, or the voice recording or the video or whatever, and don't worry about anything. Not grammar, not using the same adjective twice, nothing. Just put it down. Okay. Besides, do you really want your family members telling the story? And that's where I go back to the game of gossip. There was a story that I think it was on my mom's 90th birthday last summer that my brother was telling about this vacation we supposedly had, the 5 kids and our parents. And I think we were in Colorado, and we were in this cabin. And everybody had bunk beds, and the way he told the story was, I came in the middle of the night and screamed and scared everybody to death, woke everybody up, and it was my dad. So I had to set him straight, like, no, that was Dad. Let's get it right. So you remember those things, they don't. All right, so in deciding how you should tell your story, you have to really know yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What's your attention span like? Mine is terrible. I mean, I could no more sit down and devote myself to an autobiography project than the man in the moon. I just can't do it. I'm like a Labrador retriever in a yard full of squirrels. Now I can do it in bits and pieces, but that's not me. You might have a completely different, have that strength. Your personal style, your technical capabilities. Okay, so some of the things we're going to talk about are not highly technical, but they do assume a certain amount of like social media savvy, things like that. Your level of commitment, of course, and your motivation. Okay, so you might be that real tunnel vision sort of type A person that can sit down and do the long project, or you might really want to do it in more of a disjointed way, pick it up and put it down when you want. And then you're considering your audience as well. So an obituary obviously is a public life story, right? You may have come from, say, a department at KU that would want your life story stored in their library or their archives. That would be public. Private is the route most people choose, I think. And that's for family, of course, friends, colleagues, or just an audience of one, just for you, just to do it, and just to look back and be able to reflect on a life lived. Well lived, I should have said. Okay, so we all know about the obituary. How many people read the obituaries every day? How many people read them in a hard copy of the Journal World? Okay. How many people read them online, like through the funeral homes? Yeah, and the Lawrence Times, which is I don't want to say alternate newspaper, the second newspaper in town. Okay, all right. Well, obituaries can be very expensive. And those were the prices when I did it 5 years ago, when I went back to the Journal World site to check, and they have not updated. They either have not raised their prices or not updated their website. But as of 2 days ago, those were the prices. So as you can see, the longer it goes, the more money owed. And while the local funeral homes will, post an obituary of any length on their website, I won't say for free because obviously it's part of the package, whatever package you have with them. But the Lawrence Times, as of today, will post obituaries for free, no charge, as long as you want. So that's just a little FYI. Now, there are a lot of obituary styles. I would say 70%, tell me if you disagree, are just the facts. You go through born, died, where, when, sometimes how, what your education was, the degrees you have, your relatives, predeceased and living, and then the list of accomplishments, honors, positions held, clubs, affiliations, churches, etc. That's pretty standard. We've all seen obituaries like that, and they're fine. They're fine. I prefer the ones with a little bit of color. Oh, I don't know what that went. Well, you can fill in the blank, like the one at the bottom. Okay. I can't remember what was up there. Anyway, so ways to just fill in the color of the obituary. And again, you can put a much longer obituary on the funeral home site and then edit out the color if you want, and then of course you have to have room for the services if there is one and where donations go. So you can put a very brief or basic obit in the Journal World and then let it rip in the funeral homes on the website or in the Lawrence Times. Well, I don't know, let's just say yoga. I'm not sure what I had up there. She never met a mocha latte with double foam she didn't like. Of course, that's counted the neighborhood dogs among her many friends. He was especially proud of his Schlitz beer can collection. Her life took an abrupt turn when ... So just think about ways to add color. And it really, I don't think there are any rules anymore. I just don't think there are. So get creative. Now, I'm going to go back to what my mother thinks is the most important thing. When the pandemic started, about 6 months, 9 months in, my mom wanted to have what she called the death talk. Now, she's 90. And so we went in thinking that even though we had, she had her advance directive, she had a will, she had all these things, but this was going to be talking about the funeral and obituary, and she said she had some ideas. Well, what she brought to that meeting was her picture. And it was very important to her to have a picture that she really loved. I wanted to show my age, but not my age now, is what she said. So, and my mom will tell you she's got a little vanity running through her veins, but she gave us really the perfect picture. And I really would recommend that, if nothing else. And the women might relate to this a little bit more than the men, I don't know. But get a picture that you like, and then it takes the decision-making off the people you've left behind, right? So the more you can take off their plate, the better this all is. So again, choose a picture that you really like or doing something that you really loved. Okay. Now, my favorite obits are where you read it and you go, God, I didn't know that about him. My stepdad, my mom's husband, just died 6-7 weeks ago, and he was 96, and he married to my mom for 14 years, and 50% of his obituary I had no idea about, and it's because he really was, he was a modest man, and he always asked us about us whenever he saw us. He never talked about himself. But, so tell us something you didn't know, and here's a few things you didn't know about me. A career highlight was being selected to serve Paul Newman a breakfast of 2 poached eggs on dry rye toast in 1976. So yeah, I did that. I'm proud of that. And once while touring Italy, I saw Rick Steves just on the sidewalk, and I was literally holding his autograph book. So I went over and he signed it for me. So just trivial things like that add color, personality, tells people who you were, and if it's funny, so much the better, I think. I think these are lines I took from obituaries back 5 years ago. Tom was an enthusiastic but truly terrible singer. Possessing a dry wit, Jane was quick to laugh but couldn't tell a joke to save her life. We all know those people. Buddy never met a garden gadget on Amazon he didn't order. Joanne was unable to sit still during Jayhawk basketball watch parties. I have 2 friends like that, unable to sit down. Harry took fashion cues from no one, and we mean no one. Okay. These are just some sample. I just like the beginning of this and the end. Waffle House lost a loyal customer on April 30th, 2013. Tony LaRoe died after multiple. Okay, she's survived by 2 confirmed aforementioned children. Her favorite child, Jean, eloped in college and married Kim, who dearly loved Tony. They gave Tony 3 grandchildren. Tony often remarked that her son was just like his father, her ex-husband, Gene Jr., a statement that haunts her son to this day. And for sports fans, I think, Jayhawk fans among you, so I'm not, obviously we Jayhawks have a lot to work with for the ups and downs of our sports lives. And then if you just don't want to do it, Doug died. I would have liked to have known Doug. Okay, so that's just the primer on obituary writing. Now, there was something that I learned new 5 years ago. There's a thing called a legacy letter, otherwise known as an ethical will, and this is not a legal document. This is a letter that you write to really whomever you want that expresses the lessons you've learned in life, your values and your causes. And it might explain, if you have a couple of charities you want to designate, after your funeral, if people could donate to the charities of your choice. This is a good reason to explain why. Why does the Lawrence Public Library mean so much to me? I remember this, put it in the letter. Gratitude and your life blessings, hopes and dreams for the future of the world, of the country, of your family, of individuals. Expressions of forgiveness, I think, is really important. If you don't get to it before it's too late, put it in a letter. I mean, I've read a lot about this. I think it's really good for the person writing the letter to make those statements of forgiveness, if there is one to be made. And imagine what that would mean to the person reading it after you're gone. This goes to, typically it will go to your family, selected recipients. It's obviously a private life story. So you can give it to your children. You can give one letter to all your children, or you can write individual letters. You can write letters to your grandchildren, and if they're only one, like mine, you say save it for when you're 18, or tell the parents to save it. Friends, former friends. I thought that was interesting. Former friends that you haven't seen in a while. Maybe your best friend from college. It's been 50 years, and imagine what she would think or he would think getting a letter from you. Or do it now. That's even better advice. Colleagues or special relationships. Okay, now here's our first resource, and again, we will send these out. I did not do a handout because we were recording this, but we will probably follow up with a list of resources. There's a website called livingwisely.net, and I'll warn you, they sell subscriptions, but there's a program that teaches, ethical wills and legacy letters. You get an annual subscription. I think you get a monthly email that kind of guides you through the process of writing those, and then other, reflection journals, resilience journals is interesting, I think, but just different choices you can make. Okay, autobiography or memoir. There is a difference between the two. Autobiography is, and I'm hesitating because I'll show you what I mean in the next slide, but I'm not sure they make the distinction anymore like they used to, but traditionally autobiography is your entire life story, right? I was born, in the winter of 51 in a snowstorm, and just go back, follow the who, what, where, when, why, how rules, and tell that story from start to finish. That is an ambitious project. Has anyone done that? Is anyone in the process of doing that? Writing an autobiography? Are you? Are you through with it? I mean, are you up to date with it, I should say? No. How long has it taken you? Can you muster a guess?
I just mess with it when I'm not writing something else. So God knows.
God knows, she says. She's writing other things. So you kind of do it, take a break from the other things you're writing. Right. It's too ambitious for me, frankly. And the thought of it just way too daunting. So, but I do think it's worthwhile, certainly. And the complete life story is something I think people would treasure. But, it is ambitious. Unless you're Barbra Streisand. Now, I happen to be I'm actually listening to the audiobook. My Name is Barbara is the title. And I I don't love her like some people love her, but I love her. And I followed her career, and I adore her voice. Her autobiography, the book itself, is 970 pages. So I don't even know how thick that is. The audiobook, which I'm reading, mind you, in 40-minute sessions, is 48 hours long. So as you can see, I'm only 67 minutes in. And no, I'm 3 hours in. I'm 3 hours in. And that thing is due in 2 days. So I needed to devote more time to it, obviously. But anyway, unless you're Barbra Streisand, I think maybe it's good to think about deconstructing this idea a little bit. Okay, in autobiography or memoir, think about Taylor Swift. And by that I mean think about the eras. Now, I don't know if there are any Taylor Swifties, I should say, in the room. But this is a 33-year-old woman who's already doing, and she writes autobiographically. She has a whole album about the year she was 17. So, there are 15 songs of stories that happened when she was 17. And I think it's called 17. Lots of albums. But so she's on, her tour is called Eras Tour, which just cracks me up because she's 33 years old. I mean, if Tony Bennett did an Eras Tour, I'd say okay. But anyway, but it's a good idea to think in terms of chopping that story up into just relatable and doable eras. So you've got the early years, that Kansas City is my story, but childhood, school days, love, dating, and marriage, parenting, working, empty nesting, grandparenting, retirement. So break it down into smaller chunks so that it doesn't just seem so intimidating to you. Now, there are lots of books. I will not present all of them, not even close, to help you break things down in other ways. So, and it's possible to do both. You can kind of take a timeline approach and chunk it up that way, but then add a theme. So this book, Writing Your Legacy, and again, if you want, we'll send out these resources, takes different themes for you, prompts for you to think about memoir, think about that time in your life you took the fork in the road, right? Maybe it was college or marriage. Maybe it was transfer or have another baby. I don't know what the forks in your life were, but to hone in on those things is good. And these are their themes: my family, myself, The meaning of wealth, I think that's, money is loaded and people rarely talk or write about it for that matter. My life's work, the male to female equation, which would be, I think, very interested for women in the room who were, starting their careers maybe in the 60s when women's lib and bra burning and all that was going on. Look back at that and what were you doing? What was happening? That would be interesting, especially I think to a young woman today. So that's, again, manageable, less threatening. Okay, I'm just going to write about this one thing now. It's like you take a break from your writing. I'm just going to, write. There's another book called Thinking About Memoir. And again, these are more writing prompts. So if you're kind of stuck for ideas, especially ideas on where to start, because I think that in writing in general is the hardest part, the blank page. It's the most intimidating thing you can encounter. Just get something on it. Something you can't deny, what got left behind, apologizing for something you didn't do, what you just had to have. So that's another way of doing it. Now there are also these, I think it's more of a trendy thing. I hope it sticks around. There are fun ways and public ways to tell your story. The Lawrence Art Center has a story slam. And when we did this program 5 years ago, they were having it once a month. And I'm not sure, I think it's sort of just on occasion now from what I can glean on their website. But that's where you go up and you tell a story from your life. I think they might provide the themes in front of a live audience. So a little nerve-wracking, but fun, and I hear it's a great event. But you can also do it in the privacy of your own home. And there are games, and I've got this one here. Game of storytelling. It's by The Moth. I think The Moth is a podcast network. Pretty sure. Yes, am I right? Okay, good. Anyway, so there are 4 ways to play this game. You get a box full of cards, and each card is a prompt. So it would be fun to play with family or your neighbors. It can get pretty personal, I will warn you. So you might want to play by yourself before you invite the friends over. Here's one about making peace. Here's one about camp. Camp is rich. I didn't go to camp, but oh my God, my friends who did still tell stories about camp. I mean, we're all 68 years old, and I went to my 50th high school reunion last year, and there were like 3 girls who went to the same camp, and they went over to the corner, and they were there for 2 hours talking about camp. So get your camp stories down. I'm very jealous of anybody who went to camp. Making peace. When did you have to make peace in a meaningful way in your life? So one card, prompts, and then and then real quick ones, like tell us about a time you found yourself in the thick of it. A time Mother Nature wasn't your friend. I have multiple examples of that. A time you had to pick sides, and a time your commitment was over the top. So again, more resources. And then we have 2 books which we are going to give away. Hopefully you signed up for the drawing, which we'll do at the end of the presentation. There are all kinds of books like that. You go on Amazon or the library, I don't know how many books we have in the catalog, but there are lots of books to help you get the job done. This one is really, you would almost give this to a gift, but I think you could just, as a gift. But I think you could keep it yourself. But again, it's just a book with prompts at the top. You can hardly see them. And then one long diary page for you to write the answer to. Here's one. What was your favorite experience in your least favorite middle or junior high school class? Who is going to say PE? Yeah. I have a story. I mean, it's amazing the stories you have. You know, you get a prompt, and it's amazing the stories. Okay, what's a memory that can make you laugh now, but at the time was deeply embarrassing? Okay. Did your social capital rise or fall once you entered high school? So those are just very interesting. You know, those would be interesting to sit around with, you know, you're at your high school reunion and talk to people about that. Okay. Now, she's not here, but Pat Lechtenberg used this service, I think it was during the pandemic, and I remember going over and she wanted to shoot a video, I think to get more copies of the book or something. Storyworth, you go to storyworth.com, and this is a company, you subscribe to the service, and you pay, I have prices start at $89, and that is for, the end product is a book that's soft bound and all black and white inside. You can pay more to get a hardbound and color photographs inside, but the Lechtenbergs loved this program, and they ended up with some really beautiful books. They got enough for, I think, all their kids. And it does cost, you know, there's a fee for it. But I put it in there because of their glowing recommendations. And Pat really enjoyed, I think it took about 6 months maybe, and it was during the pandemic, so we weren't going out, you know, we weren't going places, so she had the time. And they just give you very sort of guided things to start writing about, and so you're not all over the place. And she was very pleased with the product. So I'm just throwing it in there. Okay, now another way to tell your story is to have an interview. And this could be for print, video, or audio. Or, well, I'd like for you to record it is the point, but you wouldn't have to, I suppose. Now, you could have a professional interview you. There are 2 companies that I know about out of Kansas City. One is, or was, I'm not sure if she's still doing this, but Lily Bliss was an anchor on, I think, Channel 4 back in the day. And she has a company, I think, called Legacy Stories. And she'll go to someone's house with a TV camera and interview them about their life story. My stepdad's kids did that for him. And then there's Dana Wright, who's a radio personality on KMBZ, and she does it as well. The bottom line price for that is $450. So that is the least you will pay for either of those 2 options. But it is a choice, and the way to find, there could be other people that I don't know about doing it, but if you go to the Association of Personal Historians, you can find a list. Another, yes? Oh, you did it?
I actually did an audio memoir a few years ago. I had a friend who shoot it.
Oh. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I meant to say, please ask questions as they come up, because we want you to remember them. We don't want you to wait till the end.
No, I just wanted to mention that I actually did a memoir, but I did it with a friend, and I have to find out if she's still doing it, but she did this. She interviewed people. She didn't really need to interview me. We just taped it, and I told her all the important, big things that I wanted my kids and my grandkids. It's not public. It's, you know, I did it for my kids and my grandkids. And it was like 7 chapters long. And then I hired a young man from KU, and I have to remember, I still remember his name. And I paid him $20 an hour to transcribe it. And then, he transcribed it on the computer, and then I just edited it. So it's not in a book form, but it's on Google Drive.
Right.
And I sent it off to them, so it was quite easy to do.
Yeah, great. Well, we're going to talk about a service very similar to that we're going to offer here at the end here. But Yeah, so people do it. There are people out there who do it. There are people who edit, professionally. But another choice, and this is what I'm trying to get my mother to agree to soon, is to have a family member interview you. And I think it used to be, and I'm not sure they do it anymore, but like in 4th or 5th grade, kids get an assignment in school. Is that still doing, where you're supposed to go interview, I'm not sure it's an elder or a family member, but we used to do it, and I think my kids both did it, and it was like a school project for social studies or something, or English, I'm not sure. I think that would be fun just anyway, or get the neighbor kid to come over, and yes, you'd have to guide them to get the highlights, but it would be a good way to either record that on your phone. You get an app. Mine is called Voice Record Pro. I don't think I paid for it. And you just record it on your phone or your iPhone video. Or you can do it yourself. I mean, you can ask people to submit questions to you, like to your children or nieces, nephews. What would you like to know about me? And then sit in a room by yourself and answer those questions on tape.
Hey, Cathy,
Yes?
can I add something to that?
Yes?
If you look on the library's website, there is a drop-down menu of audio-visual equipment that you can check out.
Yes.
And one of them is like a little camera and voice recorder that you can literally just put on a shelf and hit the button and stand in front of it and talk. And it records it for you. So you may want to check out those offerings that we have that you just check out with your library card. And it's kind of a cool little gadget that's pretty easy. So
Yeah. The point really is to preserve and protect your story. And there are many ways to do it. We've just talked about Google Drive. You can save it on a flash drive. You can save it to the cloud. If anyone's figured out the cloud, please meet me in the back and tell me why I'm paying for the cloud and now I can't find anything in the cloud. But I say you can make your own YouTube channel and keep it private. You can use social media privately, which I'm about to show you how. Don't just think your paper stories are going to make it. Save it digitally. Laminate it if you want to save the paper. You can go get, if you have enough and you want to bind it, like in a little book, Kinko's will do that for you. So there are different ways to save it and protect it. Okay, so this is a way to, this is something I did 5 years ago before the last class. You can create, if you are on Facebook, and you're already there and you've been on it for a while, you can create a private page that you only invite your family and friends to, and you can put a lot on that page. If you're not going to do the memoir or you're not going to do the autobiography, but you want, to post old pictures from childhood, things that you've digitized, scanned, that is a good way to do it because you have plenty of room for a caption. You can have the picture, and we're assuming it's going to last forever, Facebook? I'm not sure. But that it's that then your family members can pull down, grab whatever pictures and captions they want or they're interested in. You can also do that on Instagram and set it privately and put all your family photos up there. If you're on Pinterest, you can do the same. You can create a Pinterest page called Memories and put a few up there. Again, I just did this 5 years ago. I haven't followed through on this one, people, but it's an example of things you can do. And the beauty is you can write captions on, underneath the photo, and they'll always be here. Okay, so if you're a little more low tech, a scrapbook is a great way to tell your story. It's visual. You can write on it. Many of us had scrapbooks in our younger years. I think I probably, I'm guessing I had them till, second child was probably 2, and then I ran out of steam. But you can pick up those scrapbooks and add to them. either where you left off or start in the present, and save your life stories that way. Another thing you can do is take those old photographs that you've had sitting around in shoe boxes, all kinds of boxes actually. Sort through them first, and that's something I just did. And I'm telling you, I went from, I would say the equivalent of 8 shoe boxes down to 2. And that is by throwing away anything that was out of focus. Do you remember when we had those cameras with the film in it? And you'd go to say a band concert in my case, and you'd be sitting up in the bleachers at West Junior High, and you'd be shooting down at this giant 9th grade band or whatever, and your kid, the trombone player, was right in the middle, and you just start taking pictures, and you get home and you have 12 or 16 or 24 pictures, wide shots of the same band. I saved one of those, and so I threw the rest away. I mean, whew. But once you get that done, take a vacation, and then come back and caption them, because sometimes you might find a date on the back, but usually your descendants will get these and go, who the heck was this? And, so if you just write, this is when I graduated from Vassar, and you just explain it and try to date it, and if you can't be exact, get close and call it good. Don't sweat the details, right? Don't sweat the small stuff. Just get it documented. Oral life stories, I think, are very, very important. And I always think of my dad because he was the best storyteller. And he would tell these hilarious stories. He's very funny. And he would tell these hilarious stories. And my mom would say, Tom, you're repeating yourself. You told that one. And we'd say, no, keep going. We wanted to hear them again. Sometimes they get better. Embellishment or, more drama. Sometimes they become kind of fish story-like, where, the older you get, maybe you throw in some details that just really didn't happen. But we love them, and so I say, go ahead and repeat yourself. It's fine. But keep telling your stories. Okay, so what we would like for you to do is to consider telling your stories to us. And we did this in conjunction, I guess, with the last class. We're going to start it again. We're going to have, it's very similar to the professional services, but it will be down in the studio, the Sound and Vision studio. You have the choice between video interviews or just audio if you're not comfortable on camera. We're going to start with 3 dates this summer, which are June 18th. They're all on Tuesdays, and the window is like 10 to 2-ish, roughly. So June 18th, 16th, and 20th. We'll do them for 30 minutes per individual. If you want to come as a couple, you would sign up for an hour. Just sign up, and you could be together or separate, doesn't matter. And then your file, your video or audio file, will be emailed to you, and then you download it and you can send to whomever you want, your family. You can put it on Google Drive. You can put it on a private YouTube channel. You can do whatever you want. When we did this last time, it was amazing. I heard stories, some I can't repeat. No, I mean, I don't think some very personal stories. I didn't mean it was naughty, but touching stories, hilarious stories. Some stories they did specifically for their children. One guy this interview was going to be used at his funeral reception, like they were going to play it, or maybe during the funeral, I don't know. One man, if you're here, let me know, came and he had a tradition of reading. I don't remember the book, but I think it was The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. And is that you? Anyone here? Is he here? Okay. But he had this annual tradition of reading this Christmas story in an accent that I think might have been Scottish, or a brogue of some kind. I can't remember exactly, but he wanted that to be on videotape so that when he was gone, his grandkids and their grandkids could still read the story. So he did that during his session. We are not going to charge you anything for this, but of course, if you want to make a contribution to the library, we will not turn you down. But I think it is a valuable project to do. Some of you might not be comfortable in front of the camera, which is fine. That's what audio tape is for. But consider it, because people will want to see you too, as well as hear you. But if you're not comfortable on video, that's fine too. So to prepare for that, we've got a sign-up sheet. Where are they? Back there? We've got sign-up sheets for the 3 sessions. We're only going to take 4 a day, because I think that's probably all the time we have. And then there are forms to take home. If you want to do this, and I'm interviewing you, by the way. You're not in there by yourself. That I kind of buried the lead. You don't have to do it by yourself. I'm there, and I'm going to play news reporter again and ask you questions. However, you're going to have to help me by providing some background information, because most of you I don't know very well. And so you're going to have to guide me and say, all right, I want to talk about this, ask me about this, and then I will start, I will guide you through that and ask whatever follow-up questions I think we need to fill in the story, okay? So that's a really important piece of this. You have to do your homework. I want you to do your homework. So you complete the session, you complete the form, and you bring it to your session. Are there any questions about that? Okay. All right. Oh, yes, go ahead.
It's not a. Oh, sorry. My name's Jean. It's not a question. It's just a comment. I think our kids remember a lot of stuff in their lives from the time after they're 7 or 8. But I think a really helpful thing is to give them the memories they might not have, and maybe focus or do something for their ages 1 through 7, so they can have at least your perspective on what they were like as little wee kids and babies, even though because they might not remember. Thanks.
I think that's a great point. If you can remember. I'm thinking back okay, when my son was 4. No, but you can certainly tell that story with everything you've got. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Anybody else have a question or comment about anything? Yes.
Had a comment. Someone was talking about writing your memoirs. He was a newspaper owner and suggested you just jot down ideas and then go back and organize them. And maybe you said that while I was out of the room.
I didn't, no, not in so many words. I would never presume to teach a class on writing autobiography. That's not what this presentation was intended to be. It was to give you lots of ideas and hope that one strikes you, as something like, oh, okay, I could do that. However, there is, and I will have to find out, Pat Leuchtenberg and friends, and maybe some of you are here today, took a memoir class, a memoir writing class. And I don't know if it was a class per se, or if they just got together weekly or monthly to kind of share their notes and stuff. But she did complete a memoir. And it's probably what she did right before she did the Storyworth program. But I know there was a group in town who were meeting, they were all attempting to write memoirs. So there could be a class on this, a class on how to structure your writing and how to jot down notes. To me, it's like, it's different for everybody, Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great popularity in genealogy. And when I started a long time ago, it's frustrating enough to find dates and just factual histories. But it's very frustrating to not know how ordinary people really felt and what they did. And I remember in one genealogy class I took, they said, we know famous people, but it would be so nice if we knew other people. And kind of going with your mom's feeling, you might not feel your immediate family is going to jump up and be excited, although I think they'd be much happier about it than you think. But I found pictures, we don't know who they are, and just stories. It would be so nice for the person down the line that you may not even know yet. So I think that's
Absolutely. And when you're going through those pictures, I know we're running out of time, but you can just get a sort of index card size pack of Post-it notes, right? And just write down everything you can remember about that day, about that snap. And again, guess on the date, or say I was in 4th grade, or whatever you can do, so that when your family goes through those 8 shoe boxes, and my mother had quite a few, but there were 5 kids, so we all got a little something. But it is, they don't want to throw it away, but they don't have any idea who any of these people are. And yes, they could pull out ones of you, but I mean, it means nothing. So the more meaningful you can make for them, and it really does doing a lot of this takes a big burden off your descendants, I think, or the people responsible for you ultimately. Yes?
I wanted to respond to your comment about if you remember, and I wondered what you would think about making it a kind of, at least part of the process, a participatory one, inviting, say, your children, your grown children, to talk about what they remember of you and their relationship, their growing up, family activities, family events that maybe you don't remember as well as they do.
I think that's a great idea. We tried that very informally in an unscheduled way with my mom around dinner. Everybody went over to my sister's for dinner, and we had an agenda, but she didn't know it. And then she figured it out, and she was really resistant to it. But I mean, I think if all parties are willing, certainly. My strategy with her, real quick, is I'm taking her out of town the first week in June for 2 nights. We're going down to Bentonville, and I'm going to take my recorder with me. I mean, I'm going to tell her. But to get the person in a space where they don't have a million things to think about, I think that could help too. So hopefully that'll work. Anybody else?
Going off of that, one thing that I'm really happy that I did years and years ago was my grandmother had all kinds of photos, that went all the way back to Derek, however you say the word, those tintypes. So she had all these family things, and I would go and visit, and we would just take time and go through photographs, and I wrote in pencil on the back of the ones that you could write on. And I was so thankful later after she died that we did that, but we didn't do it all at once. We did it in pieces because she had so many, and she would tell stories, and she remembered things that I had never heard before. So in your participatory idea that you had, I think it's a great grandparent-grandchild thing if you have a grandchild. I think I was college age when we did this.
Yeah.
And so it was really wonderful. It was a wonderful thing to do. So, and then we didn't have all those strangers. My favorite thing was seeing this photograph of a guy, and I said, "Oh my God, who is this? I see where my brother gets his nose." And she said, "Oh no, that's just an old family friend." And I went, "Okay."
Woo, there's a story, maybe. Yeah, well, I think I guess we're talking about 2 things really. One is, if you're lucky enough to have a parent still living, and I do, and I know how lucky I am. My focus is on her now, but you really need to start. Don't worry about anybody else. Don't worry about how your kids will react. Just get the stuff out there that you want out there, right? And do it in whatever way is comfortable and feels good. You don't want to be, you don't want to be miserable doing this. I mean, what's the point of that? You want it to be fun and meaningful, Yes, it won't all be good stuff, but even the negative stuff is meaningful. Okay, yes, sorry.
When my mother died, we put 3 long tables at the back of the funeral. We spread out pictures, and we put a sign that said, we put out a bunch of post-it notes and said, if you know who any of these people are, please write down.
That's a great idea.
Really?
In addition, we said, if you would like one of these, let us know, put your name on it. And several people wanted them, and it was a wonderful solution.
That is a wonderful solution. Did anyone identify themselves?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes.
That's a great idea.
Got one last question,
more,
and
okay.
then we'll do our drawing.
Okay.
And it's a bit of a plug for the library, but we and our family had some VHS tapes of different things, and then a family relative who had done 8mm films that went back to the 50s. And I brought them to the library, to the studio downstairs, and it was free. But I did copy the 8mm films to a jump drive, and then, which you could buy at the library, and they hold hours. But then I took that jump drive, most of our family's in St. Louis, to St. Louis, and then all my siblings, 6 of them, could take the jump drive and download it onto their laptops, because people don't have the ability, the media, to view it anymore, right? So we don't have 8mm, reel-to-reel, and it worked beautifully. I thought the color would be a little distorted. Nope, it was just stunning, which also helps put an end to any family myths of who was at what and when.
Yeah, yeah.
But the ability to identify, it's a wonderful service.
Yeah. I did want to remind you, I want to show you, this is how pretty you'll look.
Yeah, it's stunning. I mean,
Yeah, this is Mary Burchell, and this was, well, I don't know. We were doing her life story as the
founder of the Friends of the Library.
Yes, thank you. Founder of the Friends of the Library, and she's talking about the old days in the Carnegie Building and going downstairs to the Children's Library. But professional lighting, professional sound equipment. And you can take this tape, and I call it, in TV, you called it the guts of the story. Say it's a 25-minute video, and you can hire someone to edit photographs on top of it, so it would look more like a news story or a 60-minute story, a feature story. So if you had photographs that correspond with the story you're telling, you can hire people to do that locally. I know people who will do that, and just have a real 25-minute high-quality story. But the product you'll get from us is really, it's a very impressive video studio, I think. Okay.
I guess I will add to one of the projects that we raised money for at the fundraiser is a DIY memory lab, and it is opening in the local history room probably at the end of this year. That's our goal. But it will be 2 separate stations that you could reserve for multiple hours, and we'll set it up in such a way that if you want to scan photos, that will be one station. If you want to do some sort of movies and digitize those, that will be the second station. It will be all kind of turnkey, where they'll have instructions and you just push a button and all of a sudden it's done. So we're really excited about this service. We had an incredible response from folks in the community who are really excited about it. So we have an excellent staff, tech staff for the studio. So stay tuned for that. I'm saying this publicly so it will happen. End of the year, we'll have a ribbon cutting, and then you too can go to town and digitize all your amazing movies and photographs.
And I want to reiterate, this is a free service to you. We of course, encourage donations whenever we get the opportunity, but we want to offer this at no charge for those of you who want to do this. So please sign up. If you run out of room on the sign-up sheet, there is space for a waiting list. I'm thinking we might fill up to, I don't know, but we will do this ongoing. I mean, certainly into the fall. We'll just see how it goes. Okay, so I hope to see you in the studio. All right, I'll let you pick. Okay. All right. A couple of prizes, and this is Vicki Martin. Wins this
Yeah, I was
book,
gonna say,
My Life Story.
it's like Vicky. Come get your prize. Yeah, I know. Sitting right next to Suzanne, who wins everything.
Jane Feverly.
Yes, there she is. All right.
Tell me your life story, Mom.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathy. Our next one of these sessions, and our very last one, 5th of 5, is coming up on June 20th. And it is called The End, cleverly. And it's all about different burial options, donating your body to science, organ donations, basic burials, et cetera.
Ecological
Yeah.
options, if you choose that.
Yeah, it's a topic that we've gotten so many requests for, and I give Jack a ton of credit for actually making it happen. So we hope to see you back here on June 20th. Again, if you want a video session, sign up over here on the table. There's a bunch of retroactive program postcards that you're welcome to take with you to share with your friends and tell them about the program, because we welcome everybody and we'd love to have them come. So
There's
thanks
an
again.
easy QR on that for your friends to just take a picture of and go right to sign up.
Yep.
So,
And I just want to publicly thank Jack Altman for the last year and a half and congratulate him on his retirement again.